On the restrictions, I'm now joined by an expert in communicable diseases. That's Dr. Bharat Pankhania. Dr. Pankhania, thank you for talking to us. England, as we heard, is easing its restrictions, but Northern Ireland and Wales are tightening up. So is the lockdown in England being lifted too early, perhaps?
I've always felt that we need to have a sustained restriction of movements and interactions with humans to bring our case numbers down. We are reluctant to do it, and Prime Minister Johnson cites this and that reason, but a lot of his driving force is economics. But I say, if you sort out health, the economics will also be sorted out. And if you don't sort out health, we keep on going into lockdown measures, which will destroy the economy.
Indeed. Well, England will move into its new tier system next week, as we heard. But do you think MPs should be angry if their area is in the highest level when local cases are relatively low?
They're only playing their own game. They should get real, because the get real is these tiers are not built only on case numbers. You've got to consider other parameters as well. So, for example, in the southwest where I live, if you were to suddenly shoot up in case numbers, you've only got one hospital. And because you've only got one hospital, you've got to build that into your judgment as to where we should put that region in. Because if the case numbers shoot up in, for example, Cornwall, what you're going to do? So you've got to have that caution and keep it at a higher level to protect the people, because you don't want to become, I have got no hospital capacity.
Indeed. So the tier system is also relative to resources as well, then?
Absolutely. It is multiple parameters. I wish the government would publish what all the parameters they're using to judge which tier a region is placed into. But overall, I expect them to look at case numbers, capacity, other factors, distance, isolation, etc., and resilience, and then judge which tier it should be in.
Indeed. Well, the key question has been, over the past few weeks, hasn't it, about Christmas? I mean, a four-nations deal was reached for Christmas, but each area still seems to be taking a different approach in the meantime, doesn't it?
Yes, it's unfortunate. None of the leaders of our four nations have had the vertebral column to say one other option would be to have a very low-key Christmas and stick by their guns. We've had Angela Merkel from Germany say to the German nation, 2020 Christmas will be a low-key affair. I am concerned that once you remove restrictions, people take that little advantage and then a little bit more advantage, and then we will generate cases, and then in January we'll pay the price.
Indeed, but the risk is, though, the government said that people will just do what they wanted to do over Christmas anyway. This way, at least they do have some guidelines.
That's their get-out-of-jail card. I personally believe that most people are very responsible and sensible, and the advice would have been 2020, make it a lower fare Christmas, and that would have been a better directive than to say all bets are off, 23rd to 28th, 27th of December, you can all meet and you can all mingle. We know what will happen. People will do what they're allowed to do and more.
Indeed. Let's look then at mass testing. I mean, how confident are you that the government's plan for mass testing will see areas move down a tier rather than just stagnate in it?
Yes, so you can see the nod in my face. What I'm trying to say is Prime Minister Johnson claims credit for having done mass testing in Liverpool, and therefore he brought the case numbers down. I bet I disagree, because it is not the testing. And in fact, in Liverpool, there haven't been testing, there have been screening. That's a different science and intervention altogether. What you want are a range of public health measures that bring case numbers down. You cannot just sit there and say, I tested and therefore I brought the case numbers down. It's one facet of multiple interventions that bring case numbers down.
Indeed. Dr. Pankhania, do you think the tiers are strict enough?
No, and it's very difficult to police the tiers. So, for example, Manchester is in Tier 3 and Liverpool now is in Tier 2. And we know that there is a fine, thin line geographically which divides the two places. And how do you police it? How do you prevent people from Manchester going to Liverpool or the other way around? Here in the southwest, Bristol is in Tier 3 and Bath, where I live, is in Tier 2. How do you police it, and how do you monitor and say you need to keep to your own volunteers. It's very difficult.
Indeed, and the police have said that they find it difficult as well, don't they?
Indeed.
The multi-level approach then that you mentioned, what then should the government be doing on that multi-level approach?
Well, it's not, again, rocket science, something that we've been talking about for a very long time, which is you test, but you test so that you can contact trace. And you can only test and contact trace properly, which something that now local authorities have been doing very, very efficiently, much better than the centralized contact tracing that we set up. In one place where I work for one local authority, we contact trace over 80%, and that stands, that shows if you allow local people to do it, it will work better. So what are my ingredients for getting it right? Test, contact trace, and those clean, clear, easy to understand messages of how to keep yourself free from infection. And we cannot put schools under the carpet and forget about it. We need to address the issue of schools and infections. And we need to invest and say, maybe just, we enable remote teaching for schools as well.
Dr. Bharat Pankhania, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.